WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge.
Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
And we welcome you in to Hanny Time. Good morning, everybody. I'm Charles Hannegriff along with Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. Everybody seems to be in a particularly good mood today. Did you guys notice that? Yesterday, everybody was in a particularly good mood. Today, everybody's in a particularly good mood. Something happened over the weekend that I missed?
Life is good, man. Music sounds better. Feels better outside.
Breakfast tastes better. You know, the weather is evident. It's like the traffic parted, right? You know, when you're driving to work this morning. Well, this was one for the books. LSU's 32-31 win against Alabama. And, you know, between the post game, the podcast this morning, the podcast is posted. If you want to check out with that, Gordy had some interesting things of what it was like to be on the sideline right before the 2-point conversion. But this, you know, frankly, will go down as one of the best games that Tiger Stadium has ever seen, and you can make a good, solid argument that it was the best, given the circumstances, given the opponent, given what was on the line, the unlikelihood of how this season would evolve, and how the game ended, of course. The every element that you could want in a college football game was right there. If you had sat 100 LSU fans down in a room and handed them a questionnaire, okay, and said, check off everything you want in a college football. What's your perfect college football day? If you sat 100 fans down on at the beginning of the season, what's your perfect day? They would have said, okay, give me Tiger Stadium absolutely full. Give me good weather. Give me Alabama on the other side. And then Nick Saban on the other side. Give me a game that goes back and forth, that absolutely exhausts you emotionally. Big offensive plays, big defensive plays, things that you haven't seen before. Freshmen emerging to make plays that you hoped when you recruited them. When you recruited Harold Perkins, you thought, you know, this guy's a 5-star, man. He could be a really good player. And to see him do the things that he did, or Mason Taylor, or any of the other, you know, the two tackles, you would have said, give me freshmen, give me new players making breakout performances. Give me a quarterback that's going to make some clutch plays. And then finally, give me a game clincher that just absolutely tops anything that maybe I've ever seen in Tiger Stadium before. We are 50 years after Jones to Davis still talking about that game. You know, more than 65 years after, you know, not quite 65 years, after Cannon's run, we're still talking about that. Or bring back the Magic, or Flynn to Bird after, you know, to beat Auburn with 1 second to go on the clock. And of course, you know, pick your favorite moment from 2019. That game had, or the earthquake game, that game had everything that you could possibly want in a college football game, and the ending that you've dreamed about. I said this after the 2019 national championship game, and I was there in 03 and I was there in 07, and I certainly saw a lot of the 80s and all that stuff. Not old enough to remember, you know, I wasn't alive when Cannon and all that stuff, all of those you know, championship teams in '58 happened. But in 19, I said, this is the season that you've always wanted. If you were asked, what would you want out of a college football season, you would have said, undefeated, beat your biggest rival, win the national championship in the Superdome, and have the quarterback win the Heisman Trophy. Done. And be coached by a native son. The 2019, when you left the Superdome that night, that was the perfect season, the best ever. This, for one game, probably is the equivalent. This is the one game equivalent of what you would want. Oh, I mean, you could say, listen, man, I'd rather they beat them 49-0, but where's the fun in that? Let's find out next year. I mean, so we can compare and contrast, but this was everything that you could possibly want in a college football game. And if it left you exhausted or emotionally, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotionally drained, just know that it was like that for the players and coaches too. If you haven't seen the reels on Herb Street and Fowler on the plane after, I urge you to go and find it because it was really heartfelt. Those guys have been around a long time. They've been on a bunch of campuses. They've called many, many games. They've called championship games, the highest level players and coaches, and they were stunned. Somebody else in the building wrote the open for this and said, I'm the historian around here. Okay, fine. I ain't seen anything better than that. I've been thinking about it for 2 days, since the end of the game. I've never seen anything better than that. I'm not sure how you top that. Not that you would, this exact scenario doesn't play out again, but to beat Alabama in a season that was considered to be a transition year, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it, to now put yourself in the driver's seat for the SEC championship game by beating Alabama, by beating Nick Saban on a play at the end of the game that we will talk about for as long as there is an LSU. It was that big. It was that good. It's why we do this. This is why I do this. But believe me, when I signed up for my first radio gig, I didn't sit there and go, you know what I really want to do? I want to call a UAB game. That's what you don't, no offense, but I'm not going to remember the New Mexico game. Couldn't tell you very much about it without going to look it up right now. This one, I'll remember forever. This one is special. The call at the end, this was Brian Kelly on why he decided to go for two.
It was a decision at that moment. I just felt as I thought about it, if we could boil this game down to one play and win this game before the game started, if you asked me, hey, I'm going to give you one play, and if you're successful on that one play, you beat Alabama, I would have taken that 100 times out of 100. And so at that moment, it kind of hit me that way. And I knew we had a really good play that we hadn't used and they hadn't seen. And when you get 5 out on the perimeter, you truly have a threat. And so I felt really good about the play, and it was well executed, and that was the thought behind it.
I've changed my mind on how you play in overtime in the last 2 months because they had this exact scenario in the Superdome and decided to kick the extra point. And I thought that was the right play at the time. And the fact that they got it blocked didn't change my mind on that. It's like, no, I thought that LSU was playing better than Florida State in the second half at that point, and that going to overtime would benefit LSU more so than a 50-50 call. But I wasn't thinking in the post game after Florida State about the new overtime rule, which is a 2-point conversion is required in the second overtime, and from the third overtime, it's nothing but 2-point conversions. So given that the likelihood, because I think that with exhausted defenses, there's a way better than average chance that both teams are going to score touchdowns from the 25-yard line in both overtimes. That if you're going to do go with a 2-point conversion at some point anyway to win it, be it in the second overtime, the third overtime, then go for it with the opportunity to not have your opponent answer. You have 2, maybe 3 2-point plays that you like. Most coaches will tell you that. You got a couple that they feel really good about, and after that, it's hit or miss. If you can run your best play, and the overall chances of it going to a 2-point conversion in a second overtime or into the third overtime are there anyway, then take your best shot there. If LSU kicks the extra point there and we go to the second overtime, I'm fairly confident. There's no way to know, but I'll tell you, I think both teams are scoring a touchdown in the second overtime. And then it's coming down to a 2-point conversion anyway. So then you have to go first in the second overtime. So if you got the other side knowing what's going on there with an opportunity to maybe answer whatever it is you've done. So take your best shot without your opponent having the opportunity to answer with your best play. And, of course, the emotions of it, the stadium was going crazy. All of the momentum is there. And every player, to a man, even if they had missed, I think you could have gone in that locker room and asked anybody in there and said, do you agree with the decision to go for 2? Players want to go for it. Players want to play for the win right there. No, none of them are going to say, well, you know what, the analytics tell you that. No, they're all going this. Even though I think statistically it's the right thing to do, the emotion of it puts it over the top. And you establish a level of trust with your team that you didn't know if it existed before. You felt like it did, but you haven't been in that situation against a team like Alabama. You were in that situation against Florida State. You did something else. It didn't work. I thought it was the right play at the time. I've changed my mind. This is the play. We saw this in the Utah-USC game about 3 weeks ago. Utah decided, very similar situation. We're going to go for it. We're going to take our shot to win the game right now without USC having a chance to answer. LSU did the same, and they won. Same thing happens here. LSU's going to take their shot, and they hit it. The game's over. Alabama has no opportunity to answer at that point. And if all that wasn't enough, I'll tell you one other thing that this is a part of the podcast. It's kind of a little teaser. Gordy was telling me that Harold Perkins was cramping. Now, was he going to go out there in the second overtime? I'm certain he would have crawled out there if it would have been necessary. But was he compromised a little bit at that point? He had to leave the game earlier with a cramp. If there's the slightest possibility that your best football player, okay, can't go back out there, or it's going to go back out there, but might be just the slightest bit compromised. And I don't know exactly how he was feeling at that point. He might have gone out there and been perfect. I can't tell you that for sure. But if there's even the slightest chance that he might have been compromised or maybe not been able to be on the field because of the cramping, then this decision becomes even more so, overwhelmingly, what you should do. A lot of layers to this thing, so we're nowhere close to being done talking about LSU and Alabama. The 32-31 win puts the Tigers in the driver's seat to go to Atlanta. We'll take a break. By the way, Brian Kelly press conference coming up in about 30 minutes, and we got a lot to get to. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
And we're brought to you by Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. And we're telling you about the certified pre-owned program, which is where I bought my last several vehicles, and I encourage you to do as well. The benefits, the list is long. A 6-year unlimited mileage warranty, a complimentary first-year basic maintenance program, a comprehensive 167-point inspection, free 3-month trial subscription to satellite radio, emergency roadside assistance. Told you a couple of weeks ago, I had to use this myself. Complimentary service courtesy vehicle, which I love because when you do take your vehicle in for maintenance, you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to go and arrange transportation to go back and pick up your vehicle. Transparency in the pricing, and the family-owned and operated dealership is going to treat you just that way. Take it from me. This is where I'm buying my vehicles and where you should as well. At Acura Infinity of Baton Rouge.
Professional golfers John Peterson and J.J. Colleen answer all your golf and life questions inside the new Drop Biscuit Studios podcast for the people. Download or subscribe today at dropbiscuit.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Hanny Time, Hunt and Hill. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Enter now for a chance to win a catch and cook fishing experience from the Louisiana Charter Boat Association with me, Chef Jay Ducote, winner of Beat Bobby Flay. Register now at gocatch.com. That's GEAUX catch.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping LSU Bama and setting the table for Monday Night Football, Saints and Ravens. Join us Monday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
SEC Players of the Week, Offensive Players of the Week, Stetson Bennett and Jaden Daniels shared the award. Daniels, 95 yards rushing, 182 yards passing, and, of course, the game winner, the touchdown pass to tie it, the touchdown in the overtime to get him to the two-point conversion and in the pass to win it. I thought Daniels was fantastic, obviously. He was at his best, but what he didn't do was go out there and have to and try to play a game that did not suit him. And I beat on that drum all week last week. It's like, listen, he doesn't have to go out there feeling like he's got to throw for 400 yards. He doesn't have to take the whole team on his back. All he's got to do is play the way that he has been playing the last several weeks, play his game, and LSU's going to have a chance to win. And that's okay. So I got that one right. I really felt that way. I did not feel like LSU in any way was completely outclassed in this game. They had to play well. I mean, they couldn't go turn the ball over 4 times. They couldn't have 130 yards in penalties. They couldn't give up a block punt or a kickoff return for a touchdown. But if they just played their game, they were going to have a chance to win. And Daniels was right there at the head of that. He looked confident. He looked very, very comfortable in what they were asking him to do. And Alabama was struggling with him pretty much all night. Even at the times where they were able to hit him, he bounced back. I thought he was incredibly poised for the moment. And that ain't easy. Sometimes moments like this can eat a player up if they let it, and he didn't. He was fantastic. Defensively, Defensive Player of the Week in the Southeastern Conference, Harold Perkins, 8 tackles, sack for a 6-yard loss, 3 quarterback hurries. broke up a pass. I have never seen the spy played as well as Harold Perkins played it on Saturday. When you ask a guy to spy on a quarterback, usually what you're hoping for in a best case scenario is that he will contain that quarterback, that he will skate sideline to sideline and funnel that quarterback when he decides to run back in towards where his help is. Or you will keep him from running and you keep him in the pocket until the pass rush can get there. Perkins did all of that and he attacked. And when you're the spy and you're out there and you got the quarterback one-on-one and you attack, you better not miss, because that's where the big plays happen. And Perkins didn't miss. He takes perfect angles almost every time. When he closes, his closing speed, I've never seen it. We had Brian Haldane, our PD down at Talk, was in here before the show. He says, "You ever seen a freshman linebacker here?" And look, LSU's had plenty good ones. The Devin White was a running back when he got here. Trev Falk or Brady James. I brought up the name Michael Brooks from the 80s, or Eric Hill. Those guys were all. And look, there's been a bunch of good linebackers come through here. Al Richardson had 8 million tackles in his 4 years at LSU. He was great. But I've never seen one come in and have this kind of impact and do as many things as this young man can do. He was fantastic. He is unique, and he simply played the position that he was asked to play better than I've ever seen it played before. And I try not to be, the prisoner of the moment or whatever, but I've just never seen anybody play the spy like that. Now, that would have been enough. He just does that. That's plenty. That's SEC Player of the Week. I'm saying all these things about how he plays the spy, but that's not all he did. Matt House called a really, really, really strong and creative game because he put Perkins on the edge to rush. At times he dropped him into coverage. There was one play in the first half where he faked the blitz and backed up. And I don't want to speak for Bryce Young, but I can't imagine that by somewhere in the middle of the first quarter, he wasn't coming up to the line going, "Where the hell's 40? Because I need to know where that guy's at." Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart told you this 2 weeks ago. What changed in the game? We needed to know where 40 was. I can't imagine that Bryce Young wasn't thinking the same thing very, very early in this game. Freshman of the week in the SEC, and they didn't double up on Perkins. They gave this one to Mason Taylor. 2-point conversion, and, of course, the touchdown pass with under 2 minutes to go. Hadn't seen that play run with the tight end this year yet. Not the 2-point conversion as well, but the touchdown before that. In the Tennessee game, it seemed like they targeted the tight end an awful lot, but I don't remember them targeting him in the red zone the way that they did on this play. For him to go out and make those plays. We know that Brian Kelly is very, very high on using the tight end as a big part of his offense. And when we started the season, didn't really know, that was considered a position that they didn't have a lot of depth, and they didn't know exactly what they were going to have. And did they have tight ends that were going to be able to play in a passing game the way Kelly liked to use them at Notre Dame? And they've got another first-round pick up there at Notre Dame this year in Mayer. Now you have one. Now you've got a guy that you can count on in the biggest moments. Mason Taylor, we talked about him a little bit in camp, and it's like, hey, this guy looks the part. I mean, everybody knows who his dad is. I mean, it's getting to the point where he is getting the Kramer Robertson treatment every time his name is mentioned. Do you know his dad was in the Hall of Fame? Did you know that Kramer Robertson's mother coaches college basketball, women's college basketball? That never gets brought up on the – but anyway, he was poised. He was fantastic. And if you had any doubt that he had left everything he had out on the field, did you see him embracing with his mother after the game? I mean, the guy's got tears in his eyes. You think he's not invested? You think he's going through the motions? You think the words transfer portal ever entered his mind? That's the way to talk about last year at this time. Transfer portal was the buzzword. You think that cat's thinking about transfer portal? Hell no. I want to talk about somebody else. It wasn't an SEC Player of the Week, but I just loved what he did on Saturday. When do we start talking season, boys? Middle of July? SEC Media Days, middle of July?
Yeah, quote unquote dog days.
Mm-hmm. We talking season, go to SEC media days, all the coaches. We spend hours and hours dissecting practices and sound bites and what you did over how the offseason program went over the summer. We talk about depth charts. We talk about who's, taking these reps in practice. We spend hours and hours and hours and hours. How many times we mentioned Josh Williams? None. At least not that I remember. Okay. Josh Williams would not have been brought up, wouldn't have been at the front of any of the magazines. We still do the magazine, not at the front of any of the magazines. LSU wasn't bringing him to SEC media days. After practice in August, they bring some players available to the media. We were able to go out for the first time in a long time and watch it. Not one time. Not one time. And here in November, Josh Williams made a number of plays, but I'm going to bring up two. The 3rd and 7, where he gets hit pretty much at the line of scrimmage, and this is in the red zone, and this is in the fourth quarter. And I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit bullish on this play because I had to sit there and watch Les Miles run running backs into fronts that looked like they had 14 people at the line of scrimmage. Jeremy Hill's going to come in here in a little bit, and he'll tell you, okay? Jeremy, when you came up to the line, they called toss lead. How many guys on the other side? 17. That's what it felt like. Ask Leonard Fournette, running into that. LSU ran for 185 yards the other night, and Williams had 54 of them. None more important than that 3rd down and 7 where he's hit and refuses to go down and makes the first down. That was one play. The second one, I didn't notice until I rewatched the game on Sunday, and it's on Daniels' run in the overtime. And both of the wide receivers have really good blocks on the outside. But Williams goes into the offensive middle, and at that point, he's carried out his fake, and it would have been real easy for him just to say, okay, did my job. I'm here in the defensive middle. Jaden, go get him. He doubles back to the outside and lays a wipeout block. Now, Daniels might have made a move. He might have broke a tackle. He's really good. But the wipeout block by Williams, who we spent no time talking about. Didn't spend any time talking about him last week either. Should have, maybe. Won't happen again because I appreciate what that kid, a former walk-on, was as important, too important a plays as anything. Like I said, maybe Daniel scores if Williams doesn't get that block. I don't know. But I know with the block, made life a whole lot easier. When you got guys like that contributing at that level, it's really something special. Williams wasn't a 5-star. He wasn't even a scholarship player. But he made 2 of the most important plays in the game the other night. You talk about, layers of special in this game. That was one of the ones that I got to. And like I said, I didn't catch it the first time. But, boy, when I probably watched that play back more times than anything but the final 2 yesterday. I was like, look at this son of a gun. Look at this guy go bust it and knock somebody on his rear and let Daniels get into the end zone. We're not done talking about this game. I got more. I got more. And the Kelly press conference here coming up at 11:40. We'll take a break. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Saints are playing tonight against the Ravens. Big Mike Sports Bar and Grill got all-you-can-eat ball shrimp tonight. In fact, that's every Monday night from 5 o'clock until close. And, of course, when you go out on Sundays, a happy hour all day for the NFL, $2 domestic draft, $3 Wells, and wine also on special. Daily lunch specials at Big Mike's. We're now into the high school football playoffs. The restaurant is open late. Family friendly on Friday nights. You can come in late after the games and get a meal. Big Mike's for all of your catering, all your Christmas parties. You can call and reserve those things right now. Daily lunch specials every day at Big Mike's. At Big Mike's, get in there for the Saints. Mario's got his Saints shirt on today. We're all about LSU today, but the Saints will be playing tonight, and we'll get to that game tomorrow. But head on over to Big Mike's. We watch some Saints games there. Always a lively atmosphere. Big Mike's in Denham Springs. We're kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $11,000 off MSRP plus 2.9% with 72 months on all new 2022 Ram Black Widow trucks in stock. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou is going to do right by you.
When I was a boy, I spent my days climbing trees, catching fish. Barefoot in the river I walked, listening to crickets, counting stars. This was home. After my stroke, I wondered if I'd make it back to the people and places I love. But I got the right doctors with Blue Cross coverage. Your card matters. Your home does too.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This summer, meet Acura's heroes of performance. Only available at the Acura Summer of Performance.
This summer, visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on the MDX.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your...
Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff live from City Slice Pints and Pizza, recapping LSU and Bama, and looking forward to the Saints Monday Night Football. Game time presented by Bet Rivers at City Slice, 6 to 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
A few minutes away from going to the Brian Kelly press conference. This Friday is Veterans Day, and we've got a special event on Thursday night for our veterans. It's called Red, White, and Blue at BRQ on Jefferson Highway, starting at 6 o'clock. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be pairing our military veterans with local bartenders, and they're going to have a cocktail contest and couchon de lait. This is the second year we've done this event on Veterans Day. We had moved it from the 4th of July. The cocktail challenge and the couchon de lait goes from 6 until 10, and we're raising money for veterans that are suffering from PTSD. The Acadiana Veteran Alliance, their HEAL program is what we're raising money for. I'm going to MC the event. We've got food, we got music, we'll have the games on, and the cocktail contest as well. So a lot of fun, and it's a great cause. So we invite you to come out this Thursday for our Veterans Day, before Veterans Day, for the red, white, and blue at BRQ. You can get your tickets right now at Eventbrite. And if you're going to the event, there is parking both in the front and behind the restaurant at BRQ. Red, white, and blue at BRQ for our veterans. Some other things in the game that I wanted to talk about. The opening interception by Jarek Bernard-Converse was, again, with everything that happened the rest of the game, it may have gotten lost. But think for a moment, that play, if they get a touchdown there, if Bryce Young makes a play and he changes his arm angle and they score there, things feel very different. I'm not saying LSU couldn't come back and won the game. I mean, it was very, very early, but it was a little bit of a tone setter. It wasn't as jarring as Burrow to Chase in Tuscaloosa in 19, but it was the beginning of, listen, this ain't the same old, same old. This is not going to be one where you come in here and run LSU out of the stadium. Another component of that play was the pressure that LSU got up the middle. And Jaquilin Roy and Mekhi Wingo had, I thought, fantastic games, each of them. And it was particularly impressive because what we found out when we got the play charts afterwards was these guys played probably somewhere in the area of 90% of the snaps. And when you got to go, this is as high intensity a game as you could possibly have. And LSU doesn't have a whole lot of depth at the position. They don't have, with Mason Smith being out for the year, they don't have the rotation that maybe they thought they would have before the year. These two guys had to play pretty much the whole game, and they did. And as good a job as Perkins did as a spy, he got a little bit of help when they put him out on the edge as a rusher, because LSU was getting that, the mush rush, if you will, and not allowing Young to climb the pocket very often. Both of those guys were instrumental in that. Reminded me a little bit of that game at Florida. I think it was 2017, where Greg Gilmore and Christian Lockhart had to play pretty much the whole game. They were out of defensive tackles, and those two guys had to play the whole way. And it was a hot, humid afternoon in Gainesville, and they gutted it out. That was great. This reminded me a little bit of that. Obviously, the weather was not like that, but they had to play in a high-intensity game pretty much the whole way. Thought Micah, and again, the interception by Converse was huge. Thought Micah Baskerville played a whale of a ball game. Again, with the game that Perkins and Ojulari had may have overshadowed, but I thought Micah Baskerville was fantastic in this game. Give it to the two young tackles, Campbell and Jones. They more than held their own. Will Anderson, who was on one or the other most of the game, had 2 tackles in the game and 1 sack. The guy's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. If a team with a quarterback gets the number 1 pick, he might be the number 1 pick. He's that good. These 2 freshman tackles made, play after play when Anderson's a top 5 pick in the draft. These 2 guys are playing in their 9th game. And that's why I'm borderline giddy about the future. When you go ahead and name the best players on the field for LSU the other night. I mean, there were a lot, but Jones and Campbell and Taylor and Perkins, these are all freshmen. These are all freshmen. If they're this good now, if they're instrumental in your win over Alabama now, how much better are they going to get? I thought the wide receivers were good. Not just as receivers, but I thought they were blocking their ass off, huh? Taylor, you were talking about a play during the break where Brian Thomas is basically blocking Eli Ricks. He blocked him halfway to Fred's.
Well, so it was the same play you were talking about with Josh Williams. It's right. If you look at it from the back, he has Eli Ricks out of bounds, basically.
Good. You tell him in a good mood. Let's hear what Brian Kelly's got to say about this thing. I could go on for quite some time about this game, and will. Let's hear what the coach has got to say. We'll send you to the press conference. We'll come back on the other side and take you up to Hunt and Hill. Did anybody ask Hunt how the wedding was? Did he enjoy the wedding? Was the food good? with the band. Is the band good? This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The following is an exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Welcome in to the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today. Coming up, head coach Brian Kelly discusses the week ahead for LSU Fighting Tiger football. But first, from inside the Capital One LSU Sports Radio Network studios, here are former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
There are certain nights that you will never forget, and for millions of LSU fans across the globe this past Saturday night in Death Valley, well, it's going to be one of those. Welcome into the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP.com, along with Gordy Rush here in the studio. Coming up at 12 noon, we'll hand it off to head coach Brian Kelly, who, man, what a night, Gordy. I really don't even know where to start. You know, I mean, you have those certain games that you're a part of that you're blessed and lucky enough to be a part of. And for a regular season game, to me, 7 years in, I mean, that's the most incredible atmosphere I have ever been in. Now, winning championships at all of that, a regular season game, this thing was unbelievable.
The setup of it, that LSU was a double-digit dog to Alabama, and everybody knew that LSU was playing better, but there was hope in this game that LSU had a chance. That was, hey, do we have a chance? Had more than a chance is, again, the coaching, what Brian Kelly has done with this team, and these players believing in what this coaching staff has put in. It's been fun to watch it gel.
You know, talking to Coach Kelly last week, listening to him on Monday, and then having a chance to visit with him on Thursday, you know, everybody kept asking him, how do you handle Bryce Young? In fact, I asked Coach Thursday night, I said, all right, we know Alabama, we know Nick Saban, we know the history. How do you describe this year's Alabama team? He said 2 words, Bryce Young. So you knew there was a concentration on the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And he talked about, hey, you've got to corral him. You can't just let him run wild. You can't let him go sideline to sideline. You got to bring pressure. You got to disrupt him, but you can't just let him loose. Now, to me, the opening drive for Alabama, after LSU punts the football back to him, they go right down the field. And suddenly I think all of us there in Tiger Stadium, everybody watching, sees the opening of the last 4 games where LSU had given up an opening drive touchdown. And then there's the corral inside the red zone. He gets near the 5, has to pull up because LSU brings it. I thought initially he was going to go for the end zone, but he pulls up, tries the little flip. Derek Bernard Converse with the interception. And, you know, looking back on it now, it was kind of the telltale sign that this could be different on this given game.
No, absolutely. And I remember that play. Young got forward, and there were 3 LSU defenders that all stepped up, both linebackers and a safety, and they froze. And that was, you're exactly right. That was an example of what he was going to see all night. Hard rush, but they were going to contain him. They were going to break down as if they were playing man-to-man basketball and force him to throw the football, and he threw behind the receiver, and Converse was able to make an interception. The game plan was fantastic, but the execution of the game plan was even better.
You know, I finally made it home early Sunday morning.
Yes, we did.
Like many Tiger fans did who took in the game. And one of the thoughts I that went through my head is that, you know, again, what a great game. I don't know. I haven't been here long enough to say that's the best Saturday night in Death Valley, top 5, top 10. I would defer to others who have a lot more history than I do. But what I loved about the game and why I think it captivated the college football world Saturday night was that it was a defensive battle. If you love defensive football, that first half was all about you. And then in the second half, we got to see both teams use their offensive weapons. As I mentioned, Bryce Young with the scramble and the touchdown pass, but then LSU's offense, again, that offensive line, dare I say, started to wear down the Alabama front. LSU able to run the football, and you called for it during the broadcast. You said, we got to be able to run the ball. And in the second half, especially late, they were able to do so.
LSU ran for 185 yards against Alabama with true freshman offensive linemen, 2 second-year players, and a center that's in his first year of starting. Chris, we've been in Alabama games. We didn't cross the 50. Or where those numbers were in the 20s. That Leonard Fournette wasn't able to run the football. And look, I think this is, again, a testimony to this offense, and they've evolved in their identity with this great job of using designed runs and the zone read and RPOs to open up some running lanes and force defenses to back up. And it's really, really hard to defend this LSU offense. And when you can say that after an Alabama team struggles with this LSU's offense, is on the right track.
This is a great stat. We were talking about the ability to do what LSU did on Saturday night, which hasn't come often against Alabama, certainly Nick Saban Alabama teams. And we talked about the underdog role that LSU played at home.
Right.
Our buddy Todd Polich just sent me, according to what he's found since the early 1990s, it's the 4th win as an underdog of 13.5 or more. You got the Alabama game this year, Florida in 21, Florida in 97, and Bama in 93. So, that's a job well done by Coach Kelly.
No doubt. And, I'll go even a little bit deeper. I think that as the season's gone on, this fan base and I think this coaching staff and Coach Kelly both warmed up to each other, start to understand each other. And you and I have talked about it. Look, Coach Kelly's here to win football games. Right. And that's where the focus is. He runs his program like a business. But you heard the comments on our post-game show. You heard them on TV, after the game. It is real, the relationship. And for him to basically come to tears or be teary-eyed and say, look, we've been welcomed here so much, and to be able to return this for these people, and we know how much it means to them. You could tell very, very much real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about it all year, Gordy, when people ask me on certain interviews, what's it like there around the program? Is it a fit? And all that other nonsense. I'm like, all of that you heard came from people outside the state, certainly outside of Baton Rouge. I had the pleasure this morning to be on SEC this morning with Chris Dorian and Peter Burns. And I said, they asked me what the evolution, the progression of Coach Kelly. I said, I haven't seen any. I mean, truthfully, he's done this 31 years. He's closing in on 300 wins. What I hear him talking about every day is what he was talking about in January. And he kept saying, we do these things for a reason, and eventually the results will come. And here we are, 9 games into the season, and LSU in a position to win the SEC West. And frankly, nobody in the country outside of those guys in that building.
That's right.
That's the only one that matters, frankly. Believe that.
And they believe in the process, but you talk about the SEC. I don't even know that there's been that discussion. It's about the next game,
yes,
and that game being Arkansas. And he does such a wonderful job of keeping the focus. And Chris, we've talked about on my post game interview, those moments after the game, and there was 30 seconds that was real and a high five and this and that. And then he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, I know it's now time. We're going to record this thing because I got 4 minutes to get this thing done because he's got TV next, and then he's got recruits, and that's the way that he manages time." But at least I can tell those interviews are as real as they've ever been, and I enjoy being around him.
No, it's great. I told you Saturday night I got a chance to listen to you and him following the game, and I mean it's just great because here's what I love about him. And real quick, we'll continue talking about the game. He's one of the few coaches that if he gets a question, he doesn't have a canned answer. I mean, you can watch him later today at noon. If he gets a very good question that's deep, he will take a moment, and then he will really give you that answer, the best of his ability, the way he sees it. And for the media, not to get out in the weeds, but, I mean, that is super refreshing. Real quick, we talked about the defensive game plan and the execution. Offense, made plays, Mason Taylor, what I don't know what else you can do to describe the play of this young man and the trust his staff has in him to say, hey, look, in a go-to moment, in the fourth quarter, we need a touchdown to get back on top. Let's dial his number, and then to win the game in the first session of overtime, you go, hey, let's run this one. They haven't seen it, and let's go to Mason Taylor. But by the way, Mason Taylor, freshman of the week in the SEC earlier today. Harold Perkins Jr., which was, I said on the broadcast, Nick Saban and and Bill O'Brien, they're going to have Harold Perkins Jr. in their nightmares for the next couple of days, if not weeks. Defensive Player of the Week, and then, of course, Jaden Daniels. I mean, gutsy. Offensive Player of the Week in the SEC, well-deserved.
All of them well-deserved, and let's give, let's talk about Harold Perkins Jr., who we were wondering how they were going to get B.J. Ojulari and Harold Perkins Jr., who both play the outside linebacker, the jack position. How does he get them on the field? And he got him on the field by putting him in the nickelback position in place of Jay Ward. And Jay Ward's a heck of a football player. But what that did in that alignment, you come to the line of scrimmage and you have Harold Perkins Jr. on one side of the formation and then B.J. Ojulari on the other side of the formation. You can't slide the protection both ways. I mean, that is really, really nasty. And tough to block. And then furthermore, Perkins was the guy on 3rd and long. They moved him in to spy Bryce Young, and he was incredible in that role.
An incredible night at Tiger Stadium, 32-31 overtime. LSU gets the win. Again, moved their record to 7-2. More importantly, 5-1, and currently sitting atop the SEC West. But I'm sure Coach Kelly, if he was here, Gordy, he would tell us that was basically 2 days ago. We got to move forward. So that's all the celebrating we're going to do from last weekend.
Sounds good.
And now we're going to set our focus on the matchup on the road in Fayetteville, where it's going to be a little chilly on Saturday morning when LSU gets together with Arkansas. We'll continue with more up at noon. We'll have Coach Brian Kelly. It's the Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.
Albertsons is making shopping and saving easier than ever. Check out Albertsons For You in our mobile app, where you can shop for groceries and save weekly with digital coupons all in one place. With Albertsons For You, you can earn rewards points every time you shop and redeem them for free groceries. Brand new Albertsons For You members receive $5 off their next $25 purchase just for signing up. Download the Albertsons app or go to albertsons.com to sign up. Albertsons, fresh food, local flavors.
Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
Every business is different, but B1 Bank knows every business owner has similar needs. From keeping up with payroll to investing in equipment, a trusted bank can help you stay on top of day-to-day finances and plan for future business growth. At B1 Bank, I know I have access to commercial banking experts who care about my business and can guide me to accomplish my goals. B1 Bank knows managing your business isn't simple, but they can help you make it uncomplicated. Learn more at b1bank.com/business.
Watch Premier League Soccer and the World Cup at City Slice Pizza and Pints. For early games, City Slice runs a special soccer breakfast menu. So come on down for a pint and catch the game at City Slice Pizza and Pints. Located on Chime Street near the LSU gates. City Slice Pizza and Pints, your spot for soccer this fall.
At Brock, our after-hours clinic is staffed by medical providers skilled in treating a wide range of orthopedic injuries. We're available nights and weekends, 7 days a week as an alternative to the ER. For more information, visit us online at brortho.com.
Coach Kelly is just moments away from previewing the week for the Fighting Tigers. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Once again, here are Gordy and Chris.
That's right. Coach Brian Kelly going to join us at 12 noon from the Lawton Room. He'll talk about getting ready for another big game in the SEC. This one on the road. Tigers head to Fayetteville just after 11 a.m. Saturday. Going to be an early start. Razorbacks and Tigers. Arkansas 5-4 on the year. 2-3 in SEC play. And Gordy, tough one up there in Fayetteville this past Saturday. Non-conference, homecoming. And Hugh Freeze returns to the SEC, if just for a couple of hours, and really got after the Razorbacks early, up 21-0. The Hogs would eventually battle back, kind of got their footing defensively in the second half, made it a game. 2-point conversion goes awry. They come up short 21-19. And this was a team coming into the year, much like another team in the SEC over in Texas, that was highly touted. This was supposed to be a big step forward Unfortunately for both, up to this point, it hasn't been. But I always think about this game as, again, whether or not it's a rivalry. I know what is it, the boot? We're battling for the boot Saturday? Okay.
Lovely trophy.
Yeah. But I think Arkansas gets up for this just because I think they get more up for this maybe than LSU. But I'm sure Coach Kelly's going to address the fact we got to go out and win the game. But it's never easy going up there.
It's never easy going up there. And let's look at it. Arkansas is 5-4 in the season. As you mentioned, they just lost to Liberty. This is a game that's going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning. We know LSU doesn't like to play at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be a high of 44 as it stands right now. In Fayetteville, that might as well be below zero for people from Louisiana, right? And you've got that going on. And now all of a sudden there's all these rumors coming out that KJ Jefferson, who had a concussion or concussion-type syndromes after the BYU game and had his shoulder hurt against Texas A&M, he may be questionable this week. He didn't practice at all last week. He did play against Liberty. And so you have all these things that may, negatives or things that aren't popular things for LSU football. And you don't want to let your guard down in this situation because Sam Pittman and Arkansas play a physical brand of football, and you got to be at your best to win up there. But this is one of these trap sort of spots, or after a big emotional win against Alabama, you got to be ready to play.
Yeah, because Ole Miss and Alabama are going to play in the 2:30 game later that day, and of course, some things that can affect LSU will be in that matchup. But it doesn't matter if you don't go out and win this game. And I'm sure if Coach Kelly's asked about it during the press conference in regards to KJ Jefferson, they're going to assume he's playing. And if he's playing, albeit 80%, whatever percentage he's at, he is a playmaker. What's interesting is Liberty, I think, really went after him, even though, as you said, he didn't practice, he did play, but they had 14 tackles for loss and 4 sacks against Arkansas's offensive line. So we'll wait and see whether or not he's playing or Malik Hornsby gets most of the snaps. But either way, I think LSU's got to go up there, handling the cold, being prepared for that, and just keeping their eyes on where they need to be, because if they take care of business, things are in the Tigers' favor.
No, absolutely, and we know how good KJ Jefferson is. Last year, I mean, he was Superman here in Tiger Stadium and brought Arkansas from behind to beat LSU in a game that LSU should have won. Let's be frank. And Jefferson in this game, when you look at it, he was sacked 4 times against Liberty. That really jumps out at me, Chris. 14 times they had tackles for losses in this game. I mean, Liberty is not known for their stellar defense.
Nor is Hugh Freeze.
Right, so, Hugh Freeze is running tempo on offense. So, Arkansas has had a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of bad luck this year, but they're 5-4. Sam Pittman is a quality coach. Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator. Quality coach Kendall Browse, their OC. We know how good he is. This is a good staff now that are going to try and right the ship. They've got LSU at home, Ole Miss at home, and then they go play Missouri on Black Friday. They want to get to a bowl game and continue the successful turnaround that Pittman has brought to Fayetteville.
Yeah, one of the things that does stand out to me, and you hear it all the time, it's an old adage, defense travels. Well, this time Arkansas is at home, and there's one thing about their defense. Now, they've given up big plays. They gave up 2 huge runs to Alabama, 72 and 76 yards in the game where Alabama pulled away late. But that one was on the line for a while in that contest. But they're a physical defense. I mean, regardless of the outcome, they're one of those teams that you're going to know you played them the next morning.
Fundamentally sound, and then that's Odom was that way at Missouri. He's had a good run. He was at Memphis and had some really good defensive teams. So he's really well thought of in the industry, and I think he's a Broyles Award finalist one of those years, if not winning it. So really, like I said, really respected. Doesn't necessarily bring a whole lot of pressures, but they are fundamentally sound. It's going to be fun for me to watch down on the field to see the way that Odom tries to prepare for this new look LSU offense with Daniels in some of these designed runs.
We've seen so many times this year LSU's defense against dual threat quarterbacks. It seems like a broken record. We come in here every Monday and we go, hey, this is who we're playing this week. When you look at KJ Jefferson, again, assuming he's 100%, he's going to play. What's different about defending him versus Bryce Young, or name all the other dual-threat quarterbacks we've seen?
Yeah, so Bryce Young did not really look to run. He looks to maneuver and buy time and use his quickness and throw the football. Now, Jefferson's certainly capable of that. Their great receiver was at Berks last year. He's moved on to the NFL. They're not quite as talented in the receiving corps as they've been, but he reminds me a little bit of Richardson, the quarterback from Florida. He will run the football. He is a big-body guy. Maybe doesn't have the top speed that Richardson has, but certainly fast enough and elusive to make some things happen. He's a better thrower of the football than Richardson in Florida. So again, you're right with that. Ashford from Auburn. You had Jackson Dart, I believe, from Ole Miss. We've seen Richardson now from Florida, Bryce Young, and even Travis, the fine quarterback from Florida State. So LSU has had nothing but dual threat quarterbacks most of the year.
Yeah, except for Will Rogers. That may be the one exception. Yeah. Will Rogers may be the one exception. And the difference from KJ Jefferson, again, when you watch him, when he's 100%, they use the power running game of the quarterback. This isn't like elusive. He's going to run right at you.
Absolutely. No, and that's what he did. And that's why the sacks, his size he's a solid human being back there. He looks like a tight end. And I remember last year LSU got after him and just couldn't get him to the ground. And how many times he shook defenders off and was able to throw the football down the field. That was really the difference last year in that football game.
Coming up in just a few moments, we'll head to the Lawton Room. Coach Brian Kelly will be walking through the door and headed to the podium in just a few moments. But, Gordy, we already touched on it, and maybe we're complaining because we got to be there at 11 a.m. in Fayetteville, and it's going to be a little chilly. But we've heard a lot when you go to the Swamp and when you go to these venues in the SEC, you got to prepare for the noise and the atmosphere. That's easy to do, easy to replicate. Not so much preparing for colder weather in the morning.
Yeah, and you're familiar with Fayetteville. I love Fayetteville. You love Fayetteville. The stadium is up on a hill, and it is windy. I mean, the wind whips. So you got a high of 44. That means it'll be in the 30s. It's a tough place to play.
All right, looking forward to it. We'll see you there on Saturday. Let's go to the Lawton Room and head coach Brian Kelly.
Afternoon. So a couple things I want to get out of the way. First of all, we had some players of the week. Jaden Daniels, back-to-back. Obviously, we had the off week, but back-to-back SEC Offensive Player of the Week. And then we had Freshman of the Week, Mason Taylor. Pretty good selection there, I would say. And then Defensive Player Harold Perkins. So congratulations to those guys based upon their play. Just a great atmosphere in Tiger Stadium. I think our fans were, obviously a great motivating factor to creating, one of those environments that, you all talk about, but, you want to be able to be part of it. And I think, our players fed off of that. And certainly we had talked about it Thursday that, when we were in the stadium that, they're going to be out there, but your performance will dictate the kind of involvement that our crowd has, and it's going to require play in and play out a sustained effort. And I think that sustained effort by our football team created that sustained atmosphere in our stadium. It wasn't an up and down kind of involvement. It was every single play. Our crowd was active and involved, and I think it had a lot to do with the kind of play that our players were involved in, and that was a consistency that was really good to see. So really good win. Our guys got 24 hours to enjoy it, and now our focus is on another SEC opponent on the road. Arkansas, it's the Golden Boot, another rivalry trophy. Of course, they hold the trophy from last year's 16-13 win at Tiger Stadium. And, obviously playing a team that has a very prolific offense. And in terms of players, it starts with their quarterback. I think it's the fifth time now we've seen a big physical quarterback. KJ Jefferson, 6'3", 240. He's got 17 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. He's going to be a handful. Another guy that we've got to be able to control what he does and get him on the ground. Sanders, Raheem, the running back, probably the biggest back that we'll see. 6'2", 227, leads the SEC in rushing. He's got over 1,000 yards. So that 1-2 combination with arguably the best center in all of college football in Stromberg, a very good scheme. Accomplished SEC wide receivers. This is a really good offense that we're going to have to slow down. And Sam Pittman, I have a great deal of respect for him. a very good football coach. He'll have his football team ready to go. Drew Sanders on defense leads the SEC in sacks with 7.5 sacks. Really good football player, and they do a lot of really good things with him. He plays inside, but they move him to an outside position where he can come off the edge. We'll have to be able to account for him. Got a couple former LSU players in their starting defense, Landon Jackson, Dwight McLaughlin, good football players that obviously are playing well for them. And their special teams is really good. They do a lot of different things that we'll have to be alert for, be on top of, and make sure that we do a really good job. We're trending better there. We're going to have to continue to do a really good job. We've got 11 a.m. kickoff. All those things, we're used to it. We've played it early, but we've got to obviously be able to focus on our next opponent, which I'm certain we'll be able to do that with the kind of quality SEC opponent we have in Arkansas. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Brian, in the middle by the cameras. Yeah. Was Saturday night the biggest one of your career?
The biggest one in my career is going to be when we win a national championship. And so I'm focused on one thing when I came down here, and that's to win championships. That's one game. It was an exciting win, but I don't put it in the category of the biggest. I think I've had teams that have achieved great things, and I think this team achieved a great victory because of where we were in January and what we've become. And so maybe for me, probably as satisfying as a win for a group of guys that have committed themselves to a process and in that time have achieved a lot.
Coach, when Mason Smith went down on that first defensive series of the year, you talked about DT depth being something you'd have to monitor. What's your view of how Wingo and Jaquelin Roy have played this year as kind of a couple unsung heroes there in the middle?
Yeah, obviously, I think that, anytime you lose a stalwart like Mason, there's cause for concern. But I think what we've done really well is mix up the front. We've played some 3 down to take the pressure off of losing a player of that caliber. And by doing so, have been able to rotate that defensive tackle position with 3 down and 4 down. And by doing so, obviously, you're playing with one nose. And I think that's really helped us a lot. So the loss was great, but I think we've managed it by being smart and tactical defensively, and those 2 guys have been outstanding.
Coach in the middle right here, how impressed were you with your offensive line just throughout the game having to adjust to Bama's different blitzing looks?
Yeah, they did a good job. There's no doubt. I mean, I think, Brad has done a really good job of developing those guys week in and week out. I think our backs have helped. Our tight ends helped in protection. It's not just those 5 guys, but, clearly, the biggest concern we had was their 2 end pass rushers. And you got to give credit to the 2 freshmen. Emery and Will just do an incredible job playing and play out, focusing and refocusing, letting the play go, and coming back to the next play, and just with all-out effort, sustained all-out effort. And so it is 5 guys, but a lot of that emphasis is on O-line awareness, and the guards are helping, the center's helping, but again, I would say overall, just real good awareness up front and helping each other.
Coach, right over here. Just what's the status of Armani Goodwin and just how the running back room is kind of shaking out going into the final quarter of the season?
He's doing well. We came back from a tough injury. I think, when you look at certain games, Coach Wilson has a sense of, who he wants to go with, and he felt like, he had a 1-2 combination that he wanted to stick with, much more physical group in there. But Armani can play physical as well. I think I think he was more interested in we did so much chipping with those backs. He wanted a bigger presence in there, but we have great confidence and faith in Amani and expect to see him, continue to help us down the road.
Hey, Brian, there's always a lot of focus from us in the media, new offensive concepts and philosophies and that sort of thing. But look at the two teams leading the divisions, and it seems like y'all both place a lot of emphasis on defense and running the ball successfully. Just talk about how the bedrock of winning. Has it changed that much? You think?
Look, I've been doing it a long time, and I know that there are times where prolific offenses certainly get you a lot of wins. This is about not winning. This is about winning championships, and it's my belief that winning championships still, you've got to control the line of scrimmage at the end of the day. And so controlling the line of scrimmage is stopping the run and running the football effectively and exerting your will. So there has to be a physicality about what you do. I still think you can win games throwing the football, and we'll have to win games, with that kind of offense. I said that earlier in the year. You can't win games throwing the ball for 85 yards. Then we came back and threw it for over 300. But the point I'm making is physicality starts and ends with stopping the run and running the football, and we're doing a better job there.
Brian, with Harold Perkins this year, what have you seen in terms of just how and why he's been able to just handle everything that kind of comes with being a freshman and playing as well as he has this early?
I think, quite honestly, he's got the makeup to do that. He's a mature kid. I was talking to a couple of our coaches about him. He's a bit of a throwback, and a throwback in this sense. Just tell me what I need to do. I don't need all the other things, and I'll figure it out as I go. It's kind of refreshing. He doesn't need to know all the whys, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't give the whys to our guys, and that's part of coaching today. You've got to explain a lot of things. He doesn't need a lot of the whys. Just point me in the right direction. I'll figure it out, and that's Harold Perkins. He knows he's not perfect, but he makes up for a lot of those things with his athletic ability. So, I think that Matt's done a great job of kind of meeting him halfway with some of the things that he's not ready to do, but leaning heavily on some of the things that he has that are, innate traits that can come in and help us win right away. And I think part of it is he's a bit of a throwback in that you don't have to explain everything. Just line up here, do this, and you'll be fine.
Coach, I got two quick ones, if you will. Everybody kind of wants to see behind the curtain. Was there an anecdote, a moment, a picture, or a joke, something somebody shared with you after the game that resonates with you? And then you talked about the moment from January to now. Are you at all surprised at the buy-in? That's the easiest way to describe it. But to have this many different transfers, guys that you didn't coach, commit to a new staff, is that the most striking accomplishment?
Anecdotals, anything that happened after the game. I can't think of anything. I think I was just so happy for our players, and there were a couple of guys that texted me and said they were happy to continue to do that and have people rush the field, and they would take care of what the costs were. I don't know if Scott needs to hear that, or Kelly's here. She probably doesn't want to hear that either. But there's some of those that come along the line. But I think more your second question is probably the question I'd spend time on answering. And I've said this, and that the biggest thing this year is that they have jumped in the deep end and really didn't know how to swim. But they were not going to drown. They were going to find a way to stay above water and kicking and doing whatever is necessary. And that's kind of built this fight in them, this toughness in them. And they haven't been perfect, and certainly we're not there yet. But they have such a pride in LSU. And when we first met, we said, look, we finished last. and that's not the standard. And you have a choice to do something about it. You can continue to be bad. You can be average. You can be good, which everybody in this room is good, or you can be elite. And they've made great choices along the way, so I'm really proud of them.
Coach, is this a trap game, classic trap game here?
I guess. I mean, I guess that's what they call it. I've never bought into that because I think if it's a trap game, you have not done a very good job with your football team. In January and February, for example, January, February, March, we did not train indoors. We trained outdoors. So weather's not going to be a factor. We've been outside in 50-degree, 40-degree weather. They know that, Arkansas is an SEC opponent that beat them last year. So, look, your thoughts affect, your actions, right? That affect your physiological response. So we've been working on how we think since day one. And it becomes a trap game if you're not thinking right. And we'll get our guys thinking the right way, and we'll prepare the right way. And this is about a consistency. If they want to be a consistent program, they'll think the right way about this game.
Hey, Coach, what has really allowed your run game, specifically Josh Williams, to flourish these past couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, I think we're opportunistic. We're not – look, we're, I think, about 185 yards a game, which is, the top third in the league. That's where we want to be. We're not where we need to be yet. We're getting better physically. But I think, when you have a multi-dimensional threat like the quarterback, he provides you opportunities in the running game where he stretches the defense out. And when he does that, you have to worry about the quarterback. And examples where the linebackers have to flow over the top. That creates some seams and opportunities. So it's part of the system in itself. We're not running duo every play downhill, direct snap, and just, knocking people back every time. But we're getting better at that. And I think it's just we're committed to the run. We ran the ball late with efficiency. I just think there's a commitment there is why we've been effective.
You might have just already pretty much answered this, but coming off such an emotional win, in your experience, have you learned there's a best way to get them to think the right way you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You're preparing for these moments in the first week. You handle these by being consistent in everything that you do every single day. And nothing changed last week in the way we prepared, and nothing will change this week. I think if there's if we had a lot of fanfare and sloganisms and changed a lot last week for Alabama, then maybe you worry about it a little bit. But we didn't do anything different last week than we did for Ole Miss or we did for any of the other teams. Our team is just evolving, and they're playing with more of the traits necessary to be a consistent team that plays every snap the right way. So I think I'd be more concerned if we, played with so much emotion that we were drained out, but that's how we're going to play. And that's kind of why I went for it. I felt like our football team's going to do this more often. I trusted the way they played, and I trusted that they were going to execute the play that we called, and I trust that they're going to execute next week because they've been consistent over the past 5 months, and I expect them to do the same.
Hey, Coach, winning the SEC West, now that it's truly in sight, is that something that's discussed this week, or is it kind of the Alabama thing of let's not treat this any differently because of something on the outside?
Yeah, so there's, our goal is to graduate champions. So part of this is they want to be champions, and they know that there are steps along the way in this process of getting there. And so this week will be another step towards becoming a champion. And so let's do the things that we need to do. And it starts with today, being early, being on time, making sure that they're intentional about everything we do. So, yeah, the championships are important. That's what they're here for. And getting to class today is what they're here for. So it definitely starts, but, we're not going to walk in with a PowerPoint on the SEC championship race and who's got what and all those things. But, yeah, it's there. It's out there. They know what they're going for.
Hey, Coach, right here. The growth with Jaden has been pretty rapid these last several weeks, but just what kind of role does Joe Sloan play in all of that? I mean, can you speak to just the effect that he specifically has had on Jaden, even in the last month or so?
Yeah, so, I'm with Joe every day, and he's a great communicator. So what are the really good tenets of great teachers and great mentors? He cares about his players. He has great relationships with everyone in that room. They trust him. He provides the information differently for each one as to how they learn. He's knowledgeable about the things that he needs to get across to each one of those quarterbacks. He's demanding, never demeaning. He's all the things necessary to develop quarterbacks, and he's done a great job.
Hey, Brian, would you mind just sharing a thought on Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks, what they've meant this year for you and what it's like for them going back to Fayetteville?
Yeah, so certainly this will be a big thing for them going back to Fayetteville as transfers. But, first and foremost, what was appealing to us as we were putting this back together was to have SEC experience and a connection with the state of Louisiana. And both of those guys filled that box and checked that box for us. So what it means to them is that they play for LSU, and they have such a pride in being from the state of Louisiana. And they want the Golden Boot back. And so as much as they'll have friends and former players that they know, this will be much more about them wanting to win for LSU, because that's why they came back here.
Hey, Coach, two quick ones. What kind of growth have you seen from Mason Taylor throughout his freshman year? And do you have an update on Garrett Dellinger's status for this week?
So there's been growth, physically and mentally. He's a freshman. And as you know, freshmen are, growing physically. And the first big thing is, he's put on over 20 pounds, physically and growing into his body. I think the growth, from a mental standpoint has been the knowledge of the game. He's been really good. I'd be remiss, to not point out the fact that, he's been put in a very difficult position where, a tight end has to do a lot, and we've been very fortunate to have an analyst that has great experience at that position in Terry Malone. I think Terry Malone's an unsung hero for us on our staff, and Terry was with the New Orleans Saints. He's coached the tight end position. He's been an offensive coordinator, and to have an asset like that to assist Coach Denbrock on a day-to-day basis has really helped develop Mason, and Terry's done a really good job. So having that mentor, having that person that's there, he can't coach him, but he's there as a mentor every single day. That's really, really big in his development. Garrett Dellinger looked good. We worked him out yesterday. Much better. I think he's in a great position that he could play this weekend.
Hey, Coach, just right here. Since you guys already have the experience of playing a team like Florida with a big physical quarterback who can run, does having that experience or help you this week against a guy like KJ Jefferson?
Yeah, each one of them has been a little bit different. I was just jotting down. I mean, we've had 5 of the guys that have been real big. Even Jackson Dart was a big kid too. It just seems like every quarterback that we've run into this year has been a big physical quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, again, he's a guy that they want to run, throw. They don't. he's going to be actively involved in the run game. They're not afraid to run him at any time. We've seen him take off at the 5-yard line in the air. I mean, he's a physical player. So, again, we're going to have to do a really good job of containing him.
Coach, going back to Alabama, there were several things the other night, late in the game into overtime, that in the past in the series could have been the, oh no, here we go again moment that deflated the team and deflated the stadium. But each time your team responded to that. I mean, is that kind of speaking to them not blinking and the adversity that they've overcome all year?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, I get a pulse of a team, and I don't think that there's been a time this year that they haven't felt like they were going to come out victorious in some fashion. And that resolve, that resiliency is kind of baked into them, and they just keep playing. So, again, those are the things that you feel on the sideline when you go up and down. We came out of coverage one time all night, and it was catastrophic. And I went up to the defensive backs. I said, listen, it's going to happen again because we're going to score here. So when we score, stay in coverage. He's going to scramble, stay in coverage. And they did a great job. They responded well, and again, I just think that their resolve has been remarkable.
Coach, something that got kind of overshadowed as the game went on was Jarek Bernard Converse's interception and how pivotal that was. What makes him so versatile playing both corner and safety, obviously, who's back at corner?
He's been invaluable in terms of his ability to do some things for us back at that safety position when we were shorthanded in particular. So just steady, right? Every day you know what you're going to get from him. And look, I mean, he would tell you that there are some things that he'd like to do better, but, our observations, he's a guy that has been rock solid for us and consistent. And, obviously we did a really good job of getting in front of Bryce in that situation, kind of screening him, and he threw under duress, and he was in a great position to make a big play.
Just curious about your working relationship with Matt House. Do you turn him loose, let him go? What has impressed you with his ability each week to come up with a great game plan?
Collaboration. I like to collaborate with the defense during the game. He's throwing at me thoughts. What do you think? Should we go here? Should we pressure? Do you like zone? Should we drop 8? So collaboration. Same thing with Mike. I prefer coordinators that because I'm in the game that we're having collaboration during the game. Great. All right. Thank you.
Coach Brian Kelly, if there was any question as to enjoying Saturday night and then quickly putting it behind them, getting ready for Arkansas, well, you heard it there. As LSU will travel to Fayetteville this Saturday, taking on the Razorbacks with kickoff just after 11 a.m. We'll take another break. We'll come back, wrap it up. The Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.
Together, we are partners, setting a new standard for health. Together, we prove that no matter how battle-tested we are, our spirit remains undefeated. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are creating transformational change and impacting Louisiana with a new standard for healthcare, research, and education. Together, Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are champions for Louisiana. Together, we roar. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU.
Welcome back to our podcast here in the Bayous of Louisiana. We are looking for the exclusive multiplier games from the lottery with Louisiana's very first $20 scratch-off and a top prize of $500,000. Wait a tick. We found it! Hold on. What's that sound? I think I'll get a closer look. Wait!
Hey, that's the Explorer! He found the multiplier games!
Thank you, everyone.
Try all 5 multiplier games. You could win up to $500,000. Must be at least 21 to purchase.
At Brock, our after-hours clinic is staffed by medical providers skilled in treating a wide range of orthopedic injuries. We're available nights and weekends, 7 days a week as an alternative to the ER. For more information, visit us online at brortho.com.
Do you see yourself traveling, working part-time, or moving somewhere warmer when you retire? At Edward Jones, we understand that no two retirement paths are the same. Our financial advisors can help you figure out where you are today and how to get you where you expect to be. Working together, we can make a plan for what you want and get you ready to take on anything unexpected along the way. Contact your local financial advisor today.
In Baton Rouge, call Jamie Levine. And in Donaldsonville, call Matt LeBlanc.
Edward Jones, member SIPC.
If you've been injured, it doesn't matter if you were hit by a big truck, a smart car, or anything in between. I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA 21-12671. Offices in Baton Rouge.
This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP.
All right, Tiger fans, enjoy the rest of the week. Big win for LSU this past Saturday, 32-31 in overtime over Alabama. The Tigers now helping control their own destiny, and they'll get a chance in SEC play. Coming up this Saturday, they take on Arkansas again. Kickoff from Fayetteville just after 11 o'clock. Coming up on Thursday, it's the Brian Kelly Show live from TJ Ribs. We hope you'll join us there at the Ribs location on Acadian here in Baton Rouge. If not, go ahead and tune in on the LSU Sports Radio Network. On Saturday morning, Hunt Palmer, well, he'll be back in the saddle along with Marlon Fabright and Brandon Taylor. They'll bring you LSU Game Day presented by Three Olives beginning at 9 a.m. I'll hand it over to Gordy Rush, Doug Morrow, myself. We'll bring you the action of Arkansas and LSU from Fayetteville right here along network lines. We thank Gordy Rush for his time. We thank you, as always, for joining us and hope you'll be back next week for another Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.
This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today.
Anytime. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Sandegriff.
And we welcome you back into Anytime 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. As you would expect, a very squared away professional Brian Kelly here, putting the game behind him. This is, I think, one of the more challenging things that coaches have to deal with is dealing with success. A lot of times is harder than dealing with failure. When you have failure, you get a sense of resolve from the players. A lot of time, a determination. All that. It's sometimes harder. A lot of times, it's harder to coach after a big win, a run of success, and he will do everything in his power to make sure that there is not a letdown. There's just a natural there's just a natural feeling that you can say all you want, and the players will say all the right things. But when they go to kick the ball off in Fayetteville at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, it's going to feel different than it did against Alabama on Saturday night in Baton Rouge. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't or won't play well. I think that probably one of the bigger stories of this game, people will be talking about trap game all week, and that's natural. When you have a win of that magnitude, you get it. If had my druthers, we'd flip UAB and Arkansas, play UAB this week. Would not play them at 8 o'clock. This is the league office punishing LSU for beating Alabama. You understand that, right? 8 o'clock at night for a non-conference game in November, for crying out loud. Anyway, so it'll feel different. They will say all the right things. It's going to be up to the players. There won't be any letdown from the coaching staff. They're not going to sit there and take victory laps all week. It's up to the players to heed that and go into the game with the right attitude. And I'm sorry, but I think they will. This is not – it's a trap game, I guess, but when you've got the SEC championship, the Western Division title, a trip to Atlanta on the line, I mean, that's all a motivation that you would need. And Kelly said, "Hey, look, we're not gonna put a PowerPoint up about the SEC championship in a team meeting. They don't need to. I mean, the players are well aware, and if they're not, they'll be told a million times this week. Friends, family, teammates, they understand that. They don't need it. They don't need it spelled out to them. I think the other storyline about this game will be KJ Jefferson, and is he going to play? How is he going to be in any way compromised if he does play? And if he doesn't play, what does it do to the Arkansas offense? Because he has, in many ways, been the Arkansas offense. So that's sort of the two buzzwords of the week: trap game and KJ Jefferson. Will he be in this game? Will he be effective in this game? If he is, Kelly's exact. No, I don't have the exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing here. He says, "A trap game. If you haven't done a good job preparing, if you're doing things right, it's not a trap game." I think they're doing things right. I think that he will approach this. Brian Kelly's won big games before. He's had teams go on long runs before. He's had undefeated teams in the regular season before. So he knows how to handle this, and it's just up to the players to take that mindset. And I think that they probably will. He's asked, "Is this the biggest win of your life?" I said, "Hey, when we win a national championship, it's been at the front of everything he's talked about since he took the job. Came to win a national championship. Didn't cut the food is nice. The weather is nice. The facility is great. And I came to win a national championship, straight up. And this win is a part of that. It's it's the next step. But he's not as emotional as it was Saturday night. It's Monday now, and moving on to the next thing, which is exactly what I expected out of him. The news on the injury front is pretty good. They expect to get Garrett Dellinger back this week. I would be surprised if they started him. I would say that you'd probably go with what's working and work him back in. So we'll see how that goes. But that offensive line has been percolating pretty good here of late. So good to have him back, and glad that he's healthy. But I think that right now you go with what's working, or some kind of combination. You get if you can get him into the game at some point. But I think you're going to go probably with the guys that ran for 185 yards against Alabama the other night. And the rest of it, there wasn't a lot of anecdotal stuff. I got a call from this former colleague or family member or anything. Hey, look, it was great. It was memorable. It was an emotional night. Had faith in the guys. They won, and now we're moving on to the next thing. And that's exactly what I expected. Now, when we get later into the week, I'm sure there's going to be when the playoff poll comes out and the shakeup there, because you had some real shakeups this weekend with Tennessee losing, with Clemson losing, with Alabama losing. I think that the biggest beneficiary of all of this at the top of the poll is TCU. TCU I didn't think Clemson undefeated was ever in danger of missing the playoff. If they had gone through and won them all, they were going to get in. And if they have one loss with the way the conference is, I don't think that they're getting in. Alabama was a particular problem for TCU because they were going to be able to have one loss and still get in the playoff ahead of TCU. I mean, you got some of the talking heads, I understand. I won't listen very long, but they're saying a two-loss Alabama team maybe should still be in front of some of these undefeated teams. Stop it, okay? Just stop right now. You lost. You'd have got in if you would have won, but just stop with that. Tennessee's a different story. An 11-1 Tennessee team that doesn't go to the SEC championship game is a real borderline case, and it depends on what happens with the rest of them. Same thing with whoever ends up losing the Ohio State-Michigan game. Or those teams, where are they in relation to TCU? I think that's probably the biggest questions that I have. But without a doubt, the team that benefited the most as far as the college football playoff this weekend was the Horned Frogs. A few thoughts on some of the other games. Georgia's game plan defensively against Tennessee was unique and extremely effective. In a nutshell, they spent most of the day dropping 8 and really frustrating Tennessee with their ability to go down the field. At halftime, Hendon Hooker's average yards per attempt was 5.7 yards. And if you watch Tennessee, you know that their game is anything but that. They want to attack you down the field. They want to go fast. And Georgia just simply would not let them. And the game at 27-13 was nowhere near as close as that score would indicate to you. Notre Dame Clemson, I wouldn't say it was a shocker that Notre Dame won the game. It's not like they were a massive underdog. They were about a 3.5-point underdog. They haven't played well at home. Their best games have been on the road. But the manner in which they demolished Clemson was startling. And DJU, the last time he went to South Bend, had an unbelievable game, and this time, not so much. So Clemson kind of sinks back to the pack a little bit there. That, like I said, the outcome was not a complete shock. The margin, the margin certainly was. You know, Auburn and Texas A&M are going to play this weekend, and the loser of that game is not going to a bowl game. So if you're Texas A&M and half the team had the flu on Saturday, that the line started dancing around a little bit, and it's like, okay, what's up? And it's half the team. Felt like that scene out of My Cousin Vinny, when he comes in with the suit. He's like, what are you doing in that thing? And he's like, well, I went to get another suit, but they got the flu. The whole store's got the flu. The whole team had the flu. You can just add it to the list of things that has gone completely screwy for Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M this year. They get beat and beat pretty soundly by Florida. I know they had a lot of guys out. But what strikes me about Auburn and Texas A&M is, okay, the loser is not going to be in a bowl game. And who cares about the bowl game, but the extra practice and, the perception that, hey, man, you can't even win half of them. That's got to really, really sting. If you're Auburn, you go, yeah, you know what? We don't have enough right now to win half our games. But you know what we did? We fired our coach. We got another coach coming in. The next coach will do better. If you're A&M, you go, well, we don't have enough to to get to even win half our games and get to a bowl game. And our coach is overpaid at this point. And we're kind of stuck with it. I got a call from a friend of mine on Sunday morning, and he said, so really, seriously, somewhere in College Station, there's somebody making phone calls collecting money, right? I said, they're going to be on the phone all week, $86 million. But that's what's that's what's on the line there. Seen some interesting bowl predictions come out on Sunday. The one that strikes me the most is that there's even the possibility, probably won't happen, but the possibility that LSU and Tulane could play in a bowl game. I mean, that's on the table. It's possible. It's not likely. I don't know that that's the matchup that any bowl game is clamoring for, but could happen. Add that to the list of things at the beginning of the season that we're like, okay, we're going to get to November, and I'll tell you what, we're going to be talking about LSU and Tulane playing in a New Year's Six bowl. Really? I don't think so. Just a few things from over the weekend in college football past the big one, and then Ohio State struggling was a surprise, obviously, because they were. I think they were a 38.5 or 39-point favorite against Northwestern. And C.J. Stroud, we talk about the Heisman race. The Heisman race opened up when Hendon Hooker didn't have a big game. Stroud only threw for 76 yards against Northwestern. They were co-favorites going into the weekend. Now, if you're a Heisman voter, do you take into account the strong wins in Evanston on Saturday as a legitimate reason that they couldn't throw the ball better than what they did? Northwestern didn't throw for any more yards than that. I think the kid for Northwestern had basically the same amount of yards as Stroud, 70-something. Do you take that into account and say, hey, look, he had this one game, and they won, not impressively, but they won. Do you take that into account and say, well, look, man, the guy was trying to throw in really, really hard wins, so they didn't do nearly what you thought they would do? The Heisman race, I think, is wide open at this point. I could make a case for 3 or 4, 5 maybe at this point. I think that one is open on the table going down the stretch. We'll take a break. When we come back, your questions in the chat. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. The holidays are fast approaching. You start thinking about your Thanksgiving menu, think about Supreme Rice. So many different things that you can do with Supreme Rice, whether it's the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine. Pick it up at all of your AG food stores, your Rouses, your Costco's, your Walmarts, including your Walmart neighborhood markets. Maybe for your Thanksgiving rice dressing, if you're doing a little gumbo as an appetizer, still one game left to tailgate. Hey, you know what? You got all day to tailgate because the UAB game's at 8 o'clock. Anyway, make it with Supreme Rice and stretch your food dollar and support our Louisiana farmers down in Crowley, Louisiana and Southwest Louisiana since the 1930s. All our Supreme Rice grown, milled, and processed in Southwest Louisiana. So when you're getting ready for late football games against non-conference teams in late November, make your meals with Supreme Rice. For more information and unique recipes, go to SupremeRice.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping LSU Bama and setting the table for Monday Night Football, Saints and Ravens. Join us Monday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Questions in the chat ask Hanny, do you miss the Arkansas game at the end of the season? Not really. It was another conference game as far as I was concerned. I never got when you try to manufacture rivalries, it never works. Rivalries, you can put any kind of goofy looking trophy that you want. Rivalries are made up from the play on the field, a dislike of the teams for each other, and playing for something really, really meaningful a lot. And geography's a lot of times got a lot to do with it too. When you just say, hey, listen, we're going to put this game at the end of the year and we're going to put this ridiculous looking trophy out there, and instant rivalry. It doesn't work that way. And there were a couple of those games that were really, really meaningful, the 1-11 in particular. But a lot of those games, one or both of those teams were playing out the string into a 7, 8, 9 win season. It wasn't like there were a lot of championship ramifications surrounding the game very often. Like I said, 11 was probably the exception, and 7. Okay, 7 was almost a backbreaker. I mean, that was when McFadden and Jones came in here and ran for 900 yards, and LSU thought that they had lost out on a chance to play for the national championship. As it turned out, they hadn't, but they didn't know that day. And I've still got the picture in my mind of Matt Flynn in the end zone after the game was over, and the look on his face like, we're not going to get there now. And of course it didn't happen that way, but you just, the emotion on his face was, such that, hey man, we put everything into this, and that game was a knockdown, drag out affair, and Arkansas won it. And you could just see the look on his face, man. Just, he had given everything that day that all of them did. And McFadden was just great. So no, I don't miss that game, because those were the exception and not really something that happened a ton in that. Ask Hanny, do you think Jaden Daniels opts out of the bowl if LSU misses the playoffs? That guy is invested. Okay, no, I don't think that at all. Ask Hanny, did you have any TJ Yeldon flashbacks Saturday night? I would love to tell you that I didn't, but I've been around this series too doggone long, and I've seen some of the, crazy things happen at the end of LSU Alabama games. Yeldon, the personal foul on Vidal Alexander, tell me Patrick Peterson wasn't going through your mind when they're reviewing the tip. It's like, hey, we're reviewing it. There's his foot inbounds. The call on the field is he's out of bounds. Okay. You see the fingers, bent backwards. All right. You see, at least, my angle was that on the still shot, the ball is on his fingers. Nope. Okay. I once watched SEC officials pick up a pass interference flag in Auburn, Alabama, when Early Doucette was physically assaulted. That if the defense on Doucette had happened outside of Jordan-Hare Stadium, the defensive back would have been arrested, and officials picked up the flag because the ball was tipped. And so, yes, I did. I wish I could tell you, nah, man, handed the whole. No, I did. It's like, what's going to happen? Ask Hanny, what did you think of Wingo's play? I've talked a little bit about Mekhi Wingo throughout the entire season. I absolutely love watching the guy play. He busted every time. We talked a little bit about it before the press conference started, that he and Roy had to basically play about 90% of the snaps the other night. And listen, Wingo's not the biggest guy in the world. Okay, he's probably barely 6 feet tall. He doesn't look like Mason Smith out there. Smith looks like this Adonis out there. And Wingo is, not as big as some of those other defensive tackles, but you wouldn't know it by his play. I think he's been fantastic. Ask Hanny, if LSU beats Arkansas, who plays Morgan Shuey, Nussmeier, Howard? I would think Nussmeier, although Howard's red shirt is now, is it officially off the board? He played one game and they got 3 left, so he could play in all 3 of them. I mean, I guess not counting the postseason, but I would think Nussmeier at that point. Let's see. Hanny, when can we expect your World Cup preview show? Probably about the same time as my Oscars preview show. Ask Hanny, 8 o'clock, more tailgate time, more time to juice up, embrace it, miss the 7 o'clock kickoffs. Listen, I'm not an 8 o'clock. Let me start at the beginning, okay? I don't like non-conference games in November. I'm not talking about the rivalry non-conference games. Florida and Florida State play, Clemson and South. That's all fine, okay? I was even okay with it when LSU had a rivalry with Tulane. That was the last game of the year. But the rent-a-win games at the end of the season drive me crazy. I'm not wild about them in September, but at least at that point you kind of jonesing for football, and you end up tolerating Texas playing Akron because you haven't had football all summer. By the time I get to November, LSU against UAB doesn't really get my juices going. And then you put it at 8 o'clock at night. No. I get, look, if I was a fan and, you're just going out to tailgate, Jimmy Ott calls these the mother-in-law games. Like, these are the games you give your tickets to your mother-in-law and go, we want you to enjoy the game because you don't, it's not the one that you want. Ask Hanny, how many championships the Astros have? 2, and I'm not getting sucked into this with the garbage cans and all that. They've got 2. Baseball wanted to take it away. They would have. They didn't. They've got 2. I didn't get a chance to see any of the game the other night, though I did see the clip of Alex Bregman being told in the post game, on the field after he's like, "Hey, LSU beat Alabama," and he's like, "You kidding? Come on!" So that was kind of cool. Thanks to everybody for participating. Saints and the Ravens tonight. We'll have all of that recap for you tomorrow. And, well, that's it for Taylor and for Mario. I'm Charles Henniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt and Hill. Hunt's going to tell you all about the wedding when we come back. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny time.
I don't know a single business owner that is not having problems with some of their staffing. All of the things that go into it, all of your interviews, all of your background checks, all of your payroll expenses, those things can just take you and drive you crazy. And, it's a very costly thing. It's a very time-consuming thing. Be great if somebody could take over that for you. Tiger Labor and Staffing will take care of all of this for you. Your screening, your training, your payroll, all of your employment expenses so you can get back to work. No call, no show will be a thing of the past. They handle the interview process and the onboarding. So if you need somebody for a day, a week, a month, they'll handle all of your labor expenses and control your labor expenses and increase your flexibility, especially during the seasonal employees that you need during the holiday season. Lower your employment risk, temp to option hire, only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.